Rural migration is the story of villagers who come to the city in search of work. In this process, a double transformation takes place. Urban villages emerge in the city to house migrant workers, and the village transforms as a result of the money sent home for new construction. Baishizhou village is an urban village in Shenzhen. It contains a residual fragment of its rural past in the form of a grid of agricultural dormitories. Today, instead of fields, the village is surrounded by dense housing blocks known as handshake buildings. As migrants flock to Shenzhen to work, existing villagers in these cities use their unique status as rural citizens to build houses to accommodate these new migrants. These new urban villages service the city. They are the street cleaners, security guards, kitchen hands, massage workers, and factory employees that make up the working poor. For many rural migrants, urban villages like Baishizhou are the first places they go to when they enter the city. They are the transition point between the rural and the urban. They go against the grain of formal city building and planning in China, engendering and fostering a type of urbanity that contains a diversity of spatial conditions, entrepreneurial actions, and multiple stakeholders. There are night markets, massage parlours, open-air pool tables, gambling dens, and even a church that occupies the ground and first floor of a typical handshake building. It's incredible to think that just 30 years ago it used to look like this, a traditional rural village. These rural villages are also being transformed. In some cases they're being torn down and replaced with generic village structures that look like urban villages. In other villages, even though the population dwindles, building construction increases in density and scale. The money sent back from workers in urban villages fuels this modernization. Successful families build new houses as status symbols to showcase their wealth derived from the city. As dependency on the city increases, the rural village becomes less economically independent. Agricultural production declines, and there are few alternatives to the mass exodus to the cities. The Qinmo Village project, located 5 hours north of Shenzhen, is an ongoing project to promote reasons to stay in the village, through education and the development of more economically profitable crops. 2 strategic architectural projects, a new school and the renovation of the old school, are spatial settings that facilitate social engagement and knowledge exchange. The projects are part of evolving cycles of exchange between education and agriculture, to help the village gain independence from the city. The new school functions as a public space for the villagers. It's a place the entire village can gather during important holidays and events. The old school was renovated into a community centre. It is a site for workshops for experimental planting and more informal community meetings. The projects challenged the reliance of the village on the city and the inevitability of rural migration. Over the last 30 years, the urban village and the rural village have evolved codependently through the processes of rural migration. Today, the rural village and the urban village are threatened with demolition. The traditional rural village is being supplanted with modernized concrete dwellings, while urban villages are being replaced with developer-driven commercial real estate. As a result, urban forms have emerged on the periphery of cities where it becomes increasingly difficult to distinguish between what is rural and what is urban. The outcome is that both the city and the countryside are becoming more homogeneous and generic. Our objective is to resist this tendency, to develop innovative design strategies for rural and urban development that enable the social, economic, and spatial evolution of villages by engaging their unique qualities and spatial characteristics.